Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Monday Q&As. So let's knock this out. First question. Is there any carryover from front squats to back squats, low or high bar? Hi Jason, I currently can only do front squats because I somehow pulled or strained my right pectoral. So when the bar is held on my back, my pec will hurt when I come out of the squat. This is remedied by front squats. I figure I would rather do front squats than no squats while I lose a significant amount of back squat strength when I return to them. Thanks. How much strength you will lose on them is really going to vary. You might not lose any. You might, and for some people, depending upon your progression, might actually get slightly stronger at them. If you're less developed in the front squats, you get a lot stronger on those. It'll carry over to the back squat. Or you might lose strength. It's hard to say without knowing everything that you have going on. So that being said, at the very least, you found a remedy. You've got an injury or a strain, and you have found a very similar basic exercise to replace a primary exercise that you can't do. So that's fantastic. Who cares at this point how much you lose? At the very least, you're going to maintain enough of it that when you go back to doing the normal back squats, you will regain what you lost very quickly. And in some cases, depending on how strong you already are, you might actually improve at them slightly because the lifts are so similar and use most of the same muscles. So you've really found a fantastic solution. Since you can front squat around this injury, keep front squatting and just keep trying to progress on it. The best thing you can possibly do. So props for that. All right, next question. Can one donate blood before working out, or should you wait afterwards? The training and post-workout meal. When you go donate blood, they will tell you not to work out. The reason for that is not only the fact that you've lost blood, so you've lost a little bit of ability to recover because you've lost a good chunk of your red blood cells and platelets and everything else. So you're not going to recover as easily, but that's really the minor part. Is not that energy and recovery side. It's the fact that you'll notice you get that bruise and stuff on there when you donate the blood. What will happen is that if you train, oftentimes, particularly any sort of straining, within 24 hours of that, there's a blood clot that forms in there to keep you from bleeding. You can throw that clot and then bleed and get a massive bruise in your arm and a lot of inflammation as a result of throwing that clot, and some internal bleeding in there as a result of it. You don't want that to happen. That will impede your recovery. It's going to make your arm sore. It's going to make it harder for you to train. So yes, it is best if you go ahead and just wait 24 hours at minimum to train again after you donate blood. It's just, use some common sense here. It's just not worth the extra loss of recovery and injury and minor potential health complications. Just don't train afterwards. Go train before. All right, next question. Opinions on diet soda and artificial sweeteners. I've read some data done on rats that say artificial sweeteners increase appetite and also lower metabolism due to a lower core body temperature. Thoughts? You know, this always comes up as controversial. Occasionally we get a rare study that shows these negatives, but overall, tons and tons of people utilize these as effective diet tools. I know countless people who get absolutely shredded, who do physique competitions, even guys who aren't using drugs, who use these to help suppress their appetite. They are sweet and they're filling with the carbonated water. They're an effective dieting tool. I mean, used incorrectly or not, if people drink them and think that they're magically going to lose weight from a diet soda, no, that doesn't work. But as far as any real negative metabolic effects, again, you occasionally see a study that seems to suggest it, but a lot of studies don't. And we have tons and tons of anecdote of people using them as a viable part of their cutting strategy to get really, really lean. And I know a lot of people who do this personally. I've been drinking them every single day during my 40-pound cut. I personally feel that they help me more than they harm me in any way. So there you have it. All right, next question. Jason, you obviously have the smarts to become a medical doctor. Why did you not choose to go down that path since you seem passionate about biochemistry, physiology, and decided to study exercise science? Honestly, my mother wanted me to be a medical doctor. However, for me, the whole idea of pre-med and all the amount of years you had to put in, the interns and everything else, I will be honest, guys, I'm a very whimsical person. I don't always like to stick to something just the long term and dedicate my entire life around one thing. And to me, the idea of doing a full pre-med, full medical school internships and being locked into something like that just seems so tedious to me that I really wasn't interested because of that. In terms of the actual interest in it, yes, I could have been a medical doctor. Yes, I'm intelligent enough. Yes, my mother actually wanted me to become one. She was a registered nurse and worked in hospital administration. But it just wasn't for me. It just felt the whole lifestyle leading up to it just wasn't really right for me, and I probably never would have stuck it out personally. It's just my personality type. But for those who do it, I applaud them. Medical doctors are just one of the most vital services that we have as a community. So the people who do have the right mindset for it and who stick it out and become them, I have nothing but respect for them. All right, next question. Jason, would you say the emasculation of modern man, as you put it, is the result of the declining test levels or vice versa? I remember you mentioning social factors as a possible reason why the decline, but I was wondering what you thought. I just can't read today, guys, sorry. Is it maybe to do with diet? You know what, I think it's all interlinking. I think there is a lot of social engineering going on around this. It does emasculate men. Those social factors emasculating men does lower testosterone levels. We know it does. However, by that same token, all these external factors, such as diet being a massive one, the various environmental contaminants, everything else does lower testosterone a bit overall. If people becoming more sedentary, it lowers the testosterone. So you combine all those factors together, and that makes the social engineering that seems to reduce it further. The emasculation of men seems to make it easier for that to happen because testosterone levels are also lowering. So I think it's really a concurrent thing. I think one feeds into the other. And there's a lot of factors there, and I don't know, this is something I will probably start discussing a bit more since people do seem interested in it. And quite a few people seem to be asking about it, so we'll go into that further. But I think these are two factors that feed into each other, and each helps make the other more possible, rather than a single root cause of, oh, it's the social factors or the environmental factors alone that are driving it, and the other is a symptom. I think they're working together concurrently to make it happen. All right, next question. You said that people with higher body fats, 20 to 25% and beyond, don't need a calorie surplus to gain muscle. Can you elaborate a little? Does this mean that someone in the 20 to 25% range could run your bulking 5x5 at maintenance and recomp very effectively? Yes, it means that, although I might consider telling them to go ahead and run the cutting version just because they don't have the extra food to get as much recovery. But a lot of people, depending upon your genetics and recovery, will be very successful on the full version. Case in point, one of the first guys who ran the program back when I had like 500 subscribers, who went on the program and ran it for over a year, showed me his results. Cut. He didn't do the cutting version. He did the full version. He cut. He lost 50 pounds. And at the end of the program, he was higher than my numbers for the 1 year mark. So he went ahead and stuck the program out for a full year, and he surpassed all the minimum lifts that I prescribed by at least 10 to 20 pounds for 5x5 by the time he was done. But he lost 50 pounds of body weight and clearly gained a lot of muscle. You don't go from 120 pound squat to squatting 325 pounds for 5 sets of 5 without gaining a lot of muscle. So he successfully did that, but he was quite obese when he started. So yeah, it is very possible to do that. But the thing to consider is that if you are quite obese, you might want to go ahead and do the cutting version of the program and cut anyways, because you're still going to gain muscle on the cutting version of the program. If you're obese enough, if you're over 25% body fat, you can gain muscle while running the cutting version of it while losing weight. So I'll take it a step further and say you don't even have to do the recomp to do that. But yeah, the recomping for someone who's 20 to 25 is very possible and viable on the program. I would just be careful of running the full program because some people without the food may or may not have problems with adaptation and recovery. All right, next question. Would you ever get SBD knee sleeves? Why or why not? I do not compete in the IPF, therefore I have no reason whatsoever to use SBD sleeves. I am a completely raw lifter, and if I start wearing SBD sleeves, I'm going to get used to getting additional leverage out of the bottom. It's going to change my biomechanics, and my true raw squat could be thrown off for it. On top of that, outside of lifting more weight in competition, there's no real benefit or purpose to them. They don't offer, there's no data whatsoever that suggests that knee sleeves of any type reduce injury rates or help protect the knee joint. And we know that wraps damage your knee joints over time, increase the chances of injuries over time. And in some ways, those really tight SBDs might replicate some of those effects of the knee wraps. So I don't see there being any reason or need or benefit for me to ever use them unless I choose to compete in the USAPL. I have no reason to do so, so why would I spend the money and potentially subject myself to a risk in order to just ego lift and lift more weight with a really aggressive knee sleeve? There's no benefit or reason. I'll just stick to raw. All right, next question and last question of the week. When should I tell my girlfriend that I'm on doc-prescribed TRT or on AAS, which is anabolic androgenic steroids? That's a tough one, guys, and I don't know. I don't really think about this one so much myself with my TRT or even my previous years of heavy gear use back when I was single and dating a lot of different girls. But because I have other things in my past that are bigger conversations and topics for a new relationship than something minor like this. It comes down to individual things, and the things that you've got to realize is that, as a lot of people say, don't tell them at all, loose lips sink ships, but by that same token, if you're going to have a serious relationship and trust with someone, at some point you're going to have to trust them with these things. And if, whether you're prescribed it or not, or you're doing it on your own, if you're putting a substance into your body that is going to affect your personality, that is going to affect things like your sex drive, your sex performance, and whatever, and you're in an intimate relationship with someone, they probably need to know at some point because it affects their life in a way. So it is relevant to them, but you have to balance that out with the trust issue versus the negatives, because oftentimes they come back and hit you on this stuff, particularly if you're not prescribed this stuff. A lot of girls have. I've seen this happen firsthand. I had a friend who this happened with. He was using a bunch of gear. He was competing, and his girlfriend caught him cheating. She went to the police and told them all about all of his gear and where he had it stashed and everything, and it created quite a mess. He got arrested. So I have seen this happen one time firsthand because he was cheating and she got pissed and used it as ammo. And the thing to remember is that all of these come down to balancing out how negatively can they use these things against you. I know with me, with my previous divorce, for example, some of my past, my ex used it as ammunition to hurt me, or attempts to hurt me emotionally, hitting way below the belt with things that I had entrusted her with when I was married. So that's stuff that you always have to weigh out. You have to weigh out the fact of, how much do I trust this person? When am I personally ready to tell them any of these sort of things, whether it's something about your past that you might not want everybody to know, or specifically your TRT or steroid use or whatever it is you happen to do. You've got to weigh out when you think it's appropriate to tell them based upon your individual relationship, and you have to factor in the blowback potential of when you do break up with them. You need to step back and ask yourself, how serious are you with this person? Are you giving them ammunition that they can use to hurt you either publicly, legally, or even emotionally after you break up? Because that is a level of trust involved. So you've got to weigh out how serious is your relationship with them that you're willing to take that type of risk. So it's not really clear cut and dry. That is really very much an individual assessment of that person, of the nature of what you're doing, and how much you trust them and the potential blowback. If that's an individual question that has to be weighed out in each individual situation. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.